Before I really go into this video, I am going to apologise for the sound of aeroplanes because it's that time of the day and they seem to go over the house every 2 minutes and I don't have the microphone on. All the videos that I have posted on this channel have all been in relation to self-realisation or some sort of spirituality in relation to recognising who we are, self-discovering who we are, waking up to who we are, stop seeking, this is who you are. And over the past few weeks, the realisation is, what do we actually want? When I ask myself that question, and when I ask people, they may tell me different things, you know, I'd like to do this, have this, do that. But it all comes down to three things: freedom, happiness, and well-being, which is self-love. Because when we are in that level of consciousness where the sense of freedom, the sense of being, the sense of heart-centered, no seeking, everything's okay. When we are there, we are experiencing life at a completely different level to how we do when we are experiencing challenges and quote-unquote problems. Of course, we are all different. We all have different, we're at different points of the pathless path. But one thing I do know is that freedom from pain, suffering, trauma, false identity, whatever we want to call it, is possible. It's absolutely possible. It's not in the future, it's now. With that freedom comes happiness. Happiness can be called peace, it can be called serenity, it can be called, sometimes I can't find the words, but it's that knowing that everything's fine. And love. Love is the essence of life. Love is the characteristic of life. And it's not out there. It isn't out there because there is not an out there. We recognise who we are through recognition. It's just a simple recognition. I say, are you? You say yes. You've recognised your true nature. It doesn't have a flavour, it doesn't have attributes, but when we recognise who we are over and over and over, and for longer periods, just being the awareness that is aware of being, aware of presence, aware of isness, aware of existence, aware of being aware, that has fruit, it bears fruit, and the fruit is happiness, love, joy, well-being. So freedom, happiness, love are not external from who you are. There are two operating systems. You are the awareness that is not involved in the changing. You are the witnessing presence of the changing. However, we do have the option to plug into that which changes, which is like a wheel. And it just constantly goes because we are plugged into the energetic field, which is the world of dualistic. We can, at any point, pull the plug and come out and just rest as who we are. But that can sometimes be challenging if we're not accustomed to being our true nature, attributeless, without reaching out and searching for other things. And so what we have done by design is we've created this body and we've created different filters in which we can look through to have the human experience. We can have the human experience of subject, object, energetic, 1 minute high, 1 minute low, trauma, no trauma, suffering, no suffering, possibilities, no possibilities. It's a dualistic, it's a roller coaster. It can be spiritual, it can be physical, it can be it can be anything, because the koshas are just dancing. Or we can unplug from that, come back to our true senses of who we are, what we are, recognize it, and you can consciously plug into the love and intelligence which is always available. The thing that stops most of us is the heart. There is something in the heart that makes it quite, I don't want to say difficult, but it can become challenging for us to rest in the present moment. Now, some teachings call it the ego, or some say it's the false self. I like to say that it is like a pain body, as Eckhart called it, because it's full of thoughts and feelings and reasons why you cannot be who you are. And they can be guilt, they can be shame, they can be embarrassment, they can be anything. It doesn't really matter what they are, it's a structure. And the one thing I do know is it is a belief of unloved thoughts and feelings. And it's as if that is covering the heart, and the sense of guilt, you know, I'm not worthy, or it could be a sense of inferior, superior, it can be anything. But there is definitely a pattern in the localized field. So I always say to people, what is it that you are looking for? There's no stop seeking. Yes, stop seeking, but what are you seeking for? What's that thing that you're calling freedom? Freedom from what? And it's freedom from unhappiness. So what is the dance of unhappiness? Well, this happened to me in the past. These are my sets of belief as to why I need to do work before I wake up. And all of that is valid, but it needs to be put under the microscope to look at, to be seen through, because that sense of me, separate self, it's not who you are, it's a state of consciousness. It's the mind that falls asleep and wakes up. It's that mind, when it's asleep, it becomes psychological and it creates a me who's got a pain and a story, and that is why it feels real. We'll call that the snake. When that mind wakes up, because it's the mind that wakes up, not the awareness, the mind wakes up, it can narrate, it can comment, it can describe the attributes of awareness, meaning, have you ever had the sense of falling asleep and then waking up? I had it, I was awake, I was peaceful. You're describing the fruit of clear seeing. That mind that falls asleep and wakes up, it falls asleep to its true nature, and it kind of becomes awake to the imagined snake sleep, wakes up and says, oh, it was all imagined. That's not really that. Oh, I thought it was that. That's the rope. So the illusion, it's not that it's wiped away. No, if there's a body here prior to self-realization and waking up, when the mind is realized and it's back in its original place, serving the attributeless being, it no longer remembers the psychology of the mind, because it was a dream. It's just like the Wizard of Oz. If you can understand the concept of the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy is awake and aware, and she's in Kansas City, and then she becomes unconscious. She bangs her head and becomes unconscious, and she goes into a dream world. And in the dream world, she's in Technicolor, she's in a place called Oz, and there's somebody called a wizard that's going to help her to get home, and she's meeting all these unusual beings that look nothing like her. It's a colourful city. There's a good witch, there's a bad witch, there's a battle. She goes and she meets 3 beings that are all in disguise. One's a lion, one's a tin man, one's a scarecrow. They're battling and fighting, and she wants to get home. I've got to get home. I need to get home. I need to know who I am. I'm missing home. I'm missing home. That Dorothy that's missing home is a fiction, because the real Dorothy is at home, rested. So the fiction Dorothy eventually finds this wizard to realise it was just a man behind a curtain. And he said, the power's always been with you. Now, this is still the dream. This is the dream character being told that you've got power to go home. So Dorothy clicks her heels 3 times. The dream's over. And the real Dorothy says, I had a dream. And she's talking to the 3 characters that were in the dream, and she's telling them, and you was a scarecrow, and you was in the dream, and they're just saying, thank you, yes, yes, puppets, yes. Because they could see that she didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing to feel guilty about. There's no undoing of getting rid of the munchkins and getting rid of the wizard that wasn't real and releasing yourself from the witch that wasn't there. And there's no need for that because it was a dream. But when Dorothy was in a deep sleep and then there was a dream, the dream was real, real, real. But Dorothy did not leave Kansas City. And that's a really good analogy, that we did not leave home, but we fell asleep. Another analogy that I absolutely love, and it is the truth, is if you have access to a Bible. The Bible is not a religious book. The Bible talks about a kingdom and how we fell from that kingdom. And it was one simple act. When God, who you are, put Adam to sleep, the character, it doesn't say that Adam woke up. It's in the book of Genesis chapter 2. You will read that God saw that it wasn't good that man didn't have a mate. And so he caused man to go into a deep sleep. And then there's a full stop. And then Adam and Eve begin. So it's the dualistic mind. And the beauty of that Bible, the beauty of the kingdom, shows that God said, eat anything from the tree of life. Anything, eat as much as you want, fill yourself. But don't touch the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because the day that you touch that, you will die. And that was given to Adam, the mind that is aware of its true nature, awareness. And Adam, in the sleep state, was dual. There was Eve. The serpent mind challenged Eve, the shadow, the invisible, the dream character. The serpent challenged the dream character and said, surely God didn't say that you can't eat from the tree of knowledge and good and evil. Don't mind God. He just doesn't want you to know what he knows. And I'm paraphrasing there, by the way. And Eve said, no, he did say it. He said we mustn't eat from it and we mustn't touch it. That was not what God said. He just said don't eat from it. He didn't mention touching it. And so the serpent mind is talking to the shadow and knows that the shadow doesn't know anything. So he just said, oh, no, eat it. It's beautiful. So as soon as Eve ate the apple or the fruit, we assume it's an apple, but this is all the mind. As soon as she ate that fruit, as soon as she adopted that information from the serpent mind, now, guilt and shame, I'm naked. She passed the fruit over to Adam, who ate it, and they both realised that they were naked, and shame and guilt fell upon them. So they ran and they got these fig leaves and covered themselves up, and they hid from the presence of God. They turned away from their true nature. The presence of God, which is always ever present because it's who you are, has realised there's something arising that is unusual. Adam, where are you? Adam says, we were hiding in the garden because we knew that we were naked and we were ashamed. And God said, who told you? Who told you that you was naked? You've eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam, by the way, he blamed Eve, so he blamed the shadow. He didn't want to take responsibility. Adam is the representation of the mind which is seen behind the filter of perception, the mind which is one thing, but it has 5 filters. And at any time, we can operate through any of those filters. Eve represents the world of dualism, because as soon as Eve's there, trouble started. That's probably why men say that women are troublemakers. And then when they both had 2 children, murder started, chaos, everything started. And then all the prophets were the alarm clock saying, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And Jesus Christ is the second Adam, who was awake and aware and started re-establishing the kingdom of heaven. Jesus's words, if he could sum up his words, he would say the kingdom of heaven is awareness, is aware of itself. The mind is awake and aware. Happiness, freedom and love reigns. That's the whole of the Bible in a few words. So to summarize this video, if we are plugged into the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you're on a hamster wheel, the whole package. You can't come off. You're just swirling. All your spiritual knowledge, all your personal development knowledge, everything that you've learned, it's just swirling. And you may have some relief every now and again. And that is just the consciousness asleep to its true nature. It's whirling, it's whirling. And the only way is to unplug. Stop that dance. Be who and what you are, and plug into love and intelligence, because we have come here to realize who we are. Of course, the body is the instrument in which we can use to experience who we are, to realize that awareness is aware of itself. However, when we rest as awareness being aware of itself, freedom, happiness and love starts to bubble. And so the fulfillment of the purpose has happened. We have discovered who we are. And what was the reason? What was the purpose? It was to rediscover your kingdom, the kingdom of happiness, the kingdom of freedom and the kingdom of love. And that kingdom is not in the future, it is now. The only reason why we unconsciously plug back into the dualistic realm is the condition of the heart. It's either traumatized with guilt, with pain, with undeservingness, or there's a message that the heart is, because of being plugged in, it's now created a me sense that covers the heart. But through careful recognition of who we are and the washing of who we are not, the heart becomes centered, the heart becomes happy, the heart starts to sing. So all we really need is to understand who we are through recognition. In fact, it's not even understand, it's just recognize who you are. And it's through the recognition of what we are not that gives birth to the awakened mind that knows everything. It's informationless, but it's all knowing. That blissful, peaceful essence that sits in the heart while you are just resting as effortless being. You are just awareness being aware of itself. And the dance is now happiness, freedom and love. That's what we come here for, because that happiness, freedom and love is to be the conscious state 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's the full human potential. It's not really about what we do, it's more about who we are. And when we realize, really and truly realize who we are, and we realize what we are not, we will quickly let go of that false illusionary self, and we will rest and be happy, be free, and receive the love from life source and life power. Thank you so much for listening.